Hello, I guess we can start. First I'd like to welcome you on the session entitled Importance of Blue and Green Infrastructure in the Light of New EU Post-2020 Biodiversity Framework, how to enhance the delivery of essential ecosystem services throughout the Adriatic-Ionian region. My name is Klemen Irina, and I'll be moderating this session. Altogether, the session, entire event is divided into the two parts. In the first part, we'll have three representatives from national ministries, Mr. Dusan Ognjanović from Serbia, and then Mr. Mitja Bricelj from Slovenia, and Mr. Senad Oprasić from Bosnia and Herzegovina Federation. Then in the second part, we'll have a panel discussion, which will be focused more into the terrestrial ecosystem and connectivity in it. So this session will be started with a role presentation given by Ms. Karin Zamberger from European Union. So she works there as a police officer, and then continued by Professor Duško Sirović from Belgrade. So he'll go into the status of the large carnivores into the Serbia, and then the last talk will be given by me, Klemen Irina. So I'll talk about the development of the joint proposal, how to tackle the conservation of the large carnivores and in general biodiversity in the focal area. So first we'll give the floor to Mr. Dusan Ognjanović. He's from Serbia, works at the Ministry of Environmental Protection, Department for Nature Protection and Climate Changes. Mr. Ognjanović is a country representative in TSG3, the EU strategy for the Adriatic and Ionian region, EUSAIR, and PA6 of the EU strategy of the Danube region, EUSAIR. He's directly involved in Serbian alignment with EU acquis and transposition and implementation planning related to negotiation group 27 and negotiation group 13. So his talk will be like overview of the legislation and was focused from Serbian frame. So Mr. Ognjanović, it's your floor.
Thank you. Warm regards from Belgrade. At the beginning, I would like to express my pleasure that the Republic of Serbia is a host country of this 5th annual forum, and welcome you all to this year online event. As an introductory remarks, I will try to explain you briefly how TSG3 came to this topic of the panel session. The key word is biodiversity. Biodiversity, the essential variety of life forms of Earth, continues to decline in Europe as in every region of the world, significantly reducing nature's capacity to contribute to people's well-being. The regional assessment on biodiversity and ecosystem services for Europe and Central Asia, produced by Intergovernmental Science Policy Platform on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services, has highlighted that the extent of natural ecosystems, such as wetlands, has declined by 50% since 1970s, while natural and semi-natural grassland, peatlands, coastal and marine habitats have been also degraded. This continuing negative process that has negative consequences for delivery of ecosystem services, but with the aim to make more understandable the value of the benefits that nature provides to human society and to mobilize investments to sustain and enhance them, the European Commission adopted an EU strategy on green infrastructure in 2013. Green infrastructure is a strategically planned network of natural and semi-natural ecosystem services, areas with other environmental features designed and managed to deliver a wide range of ecosystem services. It incorporates green spaces or blue spaces if we are talking about aquatic ecosystems, and other physical features in terrestrial, including coastal and marine areas. And of course, the Natura 2000 network constitutes a backbone of EU green and blue infrastructure. Also, with the ambition to reverse biodiversity loss and to lead the world by example and by action, and to help to agree and adopt a transformative and promising post-2020 global framework at the 15th Conference of the Parties to the Convention on Biological Diversity. The European Commission adopted last year in May a new EU 2030 Biodiversity Strategy. This strategy, with its ambitious goals for nature conservation, commits EU to legally protect nature restoration and to propose targets in 2021. Also, it is planned at least it is planned to legally protect a minimum of 30% of land area and 30% of sea area, with at least 1/3 of that, or 10% of strictly protected areas. The EU Nature Restoration Plan key commitments for by 2030 foresees a legally binding EU nature restoration targets to be proposed this year. Also, it is planned at least 10% of agricultural areas to be under high diversity landscape features, and at least 25% of agricultural land is under organic farming management, and at least, which is very promising, 25,000 kilometers of free-flowing rivers to be restored. The overall objective of a Pillar 3 of EUSAIR, environmental quality, is to address the issue of environmental quality with respect to marine, coastal, and terrestrial ecosystems in the region. Environmental quality is essential for underpinning human activities of the region and for ensuring economic and social well-being for its people. This pillar is dealing with environmental issues that can only be adequately tackled through cooperation at the level and scale of our macro region. It's well known that two topics are already identified as pivotal in relation to environmental quality, and those topics are marine environment and transnational terrestrial habitats and biodiversity. But the both topics contains similar actions related to blue and green infrastructure. The marine environment topic foresees actions related to enhancing the network of marine protected areas, exchanging best practices among managers of those marine protected areas, and implementing maritime spatial planning and integrated coastal management. Topic related to terrestrial habitats foresees development of joint management plans for cross-border habitats and ecosystems, joint population level management plans for large carnivores, harmonization and enforcement of national laws, particularly with CITES regulations, and protection and restoration of coastal wetland areas and karst fields. All of these sections can be effective tool for establishment and maintenance of the green and blue infrastructure in Adriatic-Ionian region. The topic of this panel session and the overall objective of EUSAIR Pillar 3 directly contributes to implementation of the European Green Deal, Also, this panel session contributes to implementation of green agenda for the Western Balkans, particularly for 5 EUSAIR non-EU countries. Once again, I would like to welcome you all and to wish you a pleasant time with hope that this 5th annual forum will remain in a good memory. Thank you.
Mr. Dusan Ognjanovic, thank you for your presentation. And our next speaker is Dr. Mitja Bricelj. So he comes from Slovenia, the same country as I do, from the Ministry of the Environment and Spatial Planning, Water and Investment Directorate. So Mr. Mitja Bricelj is a doctor of geography specialized in transnational hydrogeography contents. He's constantly verifying and upgrading his theoretical knowledge in the practice as a member of international bodies such as bilateral commissions for water management, Commission for Protection of the Donau River, ECPDR, and Mediterranean Commission for Sustainable Development, MCSD. He's a founding member of International Commission for Sava River Basin and utilizes his rich experience in Slovenia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, in TSG 3 EUSAIR. And he also added that he's a passionate kayak rider and prefers to do it on Sava River. He has hiked the Nerex and frequently visited coast of Adriatic and Iron Sea. These journeys revealed him importance of eco-connectivity and planning and development of, including spatial planning. So, Mr. Bricelj, go ahead. It's your floor.
Thank you very much, and I will try to really focus and be short as much as possible. I will kindly ask for my slides to be as much efficient as possible. The organizer, please go ahead. If is something on me, please let me know. But the slides are in the hands of Secretariat, I heard. But anyway, I will start with the very important, let's say, development which Dusan already mentioned. We are working quite hard and efficiently in the last 4 years, I would say, and we do have the products. I'm glad with this to report to you. We developed somehow, let's say, the understanding what is very important of importance of the green infrastructure and how to for the development for the future and how to bring it down to the ground to first understand it and respect it on a proper way. This we try to somehow promote via processes of the physical planning. This is let's say invented blue and green corridors for the spatial planning and put it on the map very, let's say, simply but clear and concrete, that we should discuss about those corridors as for the corridors for the, let's say, other infrastructure as roads, railway, and other pipelines are, for example. And this brings, this is my impression, change and somehow really it was not easy, but now we do have, let's say, shared vision that this is an issue in the planning of transboundary let's say project in preparing. We are connecting on that way. We do have already projects for the one of these is very important large carnivals for the migration from Deneric to Alpine region, and we do have concrete projects for marine spatial and coastal planning, integrated coastal zone management, marine spatial planning, and river basin management as 3 processes which should come together and take care about these eco-connectivity issues, as I threat and to introduce you it in the planning of the, let's say, land use and future in the perspective of EU Green Deal, let's say, objectives. This is what I would say it's our achievement. We do have, thanks to also the process of Adriatic Ionian strategy and the facility point local office in Isola, very good, let's say, new dimension of participation on the local level, what we believe is essential if we want to really touch the real issue on the ground, to have not just the national vision or policy, but we must have local response and local actions for the implementation of, let's say, eco-connectivity to enhance the biodiversity on the ground. And this we do have, let's say, such a player on the local level, and it's very essential because they are networking with the other colleagues on the national and transboundary level for the network of protected areas in coastal, marine, and region of Adriatic Ionian, and of course connecting the green corridors with the blue also with on the land. This is very on short, but please, I would here like to, of course, my co-coordinator in the pillar of environmental quality is dear friend Senat Oprasic, and I would like to, of course, also give the floor to him to continue.
Mr. Mitja Bricel, thank you for your presentation. And now I'd like to give a word to Mr. Senat Oprasic. So he comes from Federation of Bosnia and Herzegovina, Ministry of Foreign Trade and Economic Relations. He is a head of Environmental Protection Department, and he collaborates in FCR 3 together with Mr. Mitja Bricel. Senat, it's your floor.
Thank you, Clement. I hope you hear me.
Yeah.
Good, super. I would like to start with the presentation that I prepared for this opportunity, and so to say a few words regarding our activities we had in previous periods. We had at least 8 meetings last year, and so it is huge activities. We promote Pillar 3 process in our countries, and of course in the macro-regional sense. And with our activities, I hope we will prepare something which is very important for all macro-regional countries, all non-EU countries. Sorry, I'm not good with these techniques, but now I think everything is okay. So, as I mentioned, we had several activities and several meetings, 8 meetings at least, and key achievements and main outcomes for that meetings is that we reach agreements on 3 flagships, actually development and implementation of Adriatic Ionian sub-regional oil spills and contingency plan. For this, it is important that we in Bosnia and Herzegovina working with the implementation of coastal area management plan that include and contingency plan, which will be actually added value for these activities. We promote it as a flagships. Promotion also of sustainable growth in the Adriatic region by implementing ICZM and MSP, also to contribute CRF on ICZM on Barcelona Convention, and the monitoring and management of marine protected area. And third, activities which we actually reach agreement is protection and enhancement of natural terrestrial habitats and ecosystem, about what told more Mr. Dusan Ognjanovic and Mitja. In line with Slovenian presidency, we organized TSG 3 workshop with Interact 21st and 22nd September on EU Green Deal. EU Green Deal is a really great opportunity for non-EU country, and I hope we will use that chance and implemented a lot of priorities we define in Sofia Declaration, which is our guidance and framework for preparation of the other let's say projects and proposals for the funding by the European Union. In that European Green Deal, key messages in that was actually that we develop modern river basin, coastal and marine management, recognizing the potential of blue and green infrastructure for sustainable solution. Of course, blue and green corridors in marine spatial planning, recognizing importance of eco-connectivities and biodiversity from good environmental status, reproductive and healthy sea. Investing in green infrastructure is investing in our future. Macro-regional strategy translates EU policies actually into a local implementation. Macro-regional strategy and the European Green Deal have common priorities and challenges that can be efficiently tackled only in an integrated way, considering the links with the SDGs. Feasible green recovery measure planned for each West Balkan country should also be included in IPA programming processes. Macro-regional strategies for us are a tool for the implementation of Green Deal in the regional level. Countries must design and implement policies going greener and smarter and with much more synergies and cooperation among states and at a regional level. In Bosnia and Herzegovina, there was organized as a presidency of the let's say a regional cooperation center actually in Sarajevo. We organized ministerial meeting and the conclusions of the ministerial are going to the implementation of the Sofia Declaration as soon as possible. So we need to find on which way we should present it and propose our projects and programs for the funding from the EU. What is important to say more in this presentation actually is the work ahead. Actually, the modern comprehensive planning. In our activities, we are planning to prepare a handbook for green infrastructure and special planning with national ministries, municipalities, institutes for water of the Republic of Slovenia, University of Ljubljana, and EUSAIR TSG 3. Of course, the importance of EU Green Deal with green and blue infrastructure with the important contribution for green and blue economy in the Adriatic region at the 6th EUSAIR Forum. And of course, challenges, what are the challenges for non-EU countries? It's actually to reach good environmental status protected area, to be able to use ecosystem services on efficient way. Also promoting eco-connectivity, creating new and blue and green corridors in Western Balkan countries. What is important to say more, actually, in Ljubljana this month, there was organized some meeting, Adriatic Committee, actually, which is, it was a meeting of the countries that actually, a meeting of the countries that belonging to the ex-Yugoslavia and Italy. In that process participate in this moment 3 countries, Italia, Slovenia, and Croatia, but Bosnia and Herzegovina, Montenegro, Albania are also interested in participating in that Adriatic Committee. So it is important that maybe Adriatic Committee get some more professional organization, maybe establishing a secretariat of that, to be to know to whom send a letter that Bosnia and Herzegovina want to join to the Adriatic Committee and work together with the other countries. This is what I want to say in this moment. So thank you very much for listening me and to having me here in this forum. Thank you.
Thank you. So, okay, now it works. So thank you for your presentation, Mr. Sinnett. And now we go to the second part, into the panel that will be, at least in the two speaks, will be more oriented into the terrestrial part. So we'll start with Ms. Karin Zamberger. She's a policy officer in the European Commission, DG Environmental Biodiversity Unit. Ms. Karin is a biologist. After working 10 years in the research department, she works since 2007 in the Environmental Directorate General of the European Commission. Her main portfolio is the Climate Change Biodiversity Health Nexus. She'll make a short introduction to the EU Biodiversity Strategy for 2030, bringing nature back into our lives, focusing on green infrastructure. So, Karin, go ahead.
Thank you, Clemen. Also, I think that the presentation is taken care of by the organizers. I will just start my presentation. The EU Biodiversity Strategy, as has already been introduced by the first, kindly introduced by the first speaker of this session, is one of the initiatives that have been launched under the European Green Deal. And now, as some elements have already been introduced, so I can actually be a bit more on the development of this strategy. It has been developed in a very special time in this time where we are facing the COVID-19 pandemics and its measure. Actually, this COVID-19 pandemic has clearly shown the role of nature for our health, for our mental and physical health. And it had also brought back to the forefront the connection between deforestation, destruction of nature, and the emergence of zoonotic diseases, which means that under these particular circumstances, the importance of the biodiversity strategy is actually even higher. And somebody said that investing in green infrastructures for the future, I think the very particular situation we are in now clearly shows that it's investing in the future, but also investing in the present. Now, the main elements of this EU biodiversity strategy can be summarized under 4 headings: protect nature, restore nature, enable transformative change, and the EU's position for an ambitious global agenda. Protecting nature, we have already heard about it, so I will actually no longer go into these details. What is really striking for this particular strategy is that we think it's probably one of the most ambitious of its kind, putting in these direct quantifiable targets where member states will be held responsible in order what they have done in order to achieve those. A very big element, even bigger than before, is the restoration, because we have unfortunately have to face the situation that the status, the quality of the ecosystems, even inside protected areas, even inside the Natura 2000 network, the State of Nature report clearly showed that even there, restoration activities are necessary in order to achieve the favorable conservation status. Restoring nature is not only in the rural areas, but it's also a very big element in the urban areas. And green infrastructure, green and blue infrastructure, goes across both the rural and the urban. And actually, the green infrastructure strategy that has also been mentioned in the introduction is fully embedded in this EU biodiversity strategy. There will be a new urban greening platform, the Green City Accord, where we hope that really a high number of cities will adhere. But let me come to the key chapter on enabling transformative change. We have learned that the failure of previous biodiversity strategies, we have had halting biodiversity loss by 2010, we have had biodiversity strategy to 2020, and still we did not manage to achieve our targets. We think one reason of it that we really have failed to address the drivers of biodiversity loss. In order to address them, we need fast and deep transformative change. And in order to enable this transformative change, we need a new governance framework. We need to unlock financing for nature protection and nature restoration. It's clear that public funding, governments play a key role, but they cannot do this alone. We need full business engagement. We need to change the operational system, that it no longer can be that destroying nature brings profit and keeping nature is neglected. We need to change this underlying system. This also implies increased knowledge and education and awareness raising, that from early on that population, citizens, everybody is fully aware. And here, as I said in the beginning, the COVID-19 crisis actually taught us a very harsh lesson. But through this, the experience of the value and the importance, what nature means for our lives, what it is important, how to connect to nature. That's why this biodiversity strategy wants to bring nature back into our lives. All this goes through education from very early on, through school, through university, through lifelong learning. And we think that this transformational change is nothing theoretical. We believe that the promotion of implementation of nature-based solutions, of implementation of green and blue infrastructure, by doing that, we can already see it by investing in the implementation of this, we can see that there's already a change happening. So this is transformative change in reality. But what we need, as scientists have clearly told us, that we are risking cascading tipping points. So the investment in green and blue infrastructure is no longer something which we might do if we think we have settled our important issues. No, this is something which is really, it's our basis. It's the basis for the economic development, and it's the basis for the society. The biodiversity strategy, of course, is not the only strategy, the only initiative under the European Green Deal. There's a number of others. There's the Farm to Fork, should have mentioned on this slide. There's the Renovation Wave. There's the European Bauhaus Initiative. All of those, they include elements of green infrastructure, nature-based solutions, and they will be coming soon. The European Union's revised adaptation strategy, where also the role of nature for adaptation to climate change through green infrastructure, through ecosystem-based adaptation, will have a much more prominent role than it had in the strategy some years back. Now, on the way forward, the EU member states have endorsed the EU biodiversity strategy, where council conclusions where the member states have fully endorsed the very ambitious commitments included in the strategy. On the global level, there was in September last year a summit on biodiversity next to the United Nations General Assembly. And in the margin of that, there have been by now more than 80 heads of state and government and the EU who have endorsed the Leaders' Pledge for Nature, where leaders unite to protect, restore nature for sustainable development. We think that 2021 will be a pivotal year, but it needs to be really characterized by action, by implementing into protecting and restoring nature, while at the same time the international communities is continuing to work towards the post-2020 global biodiversity framework to be adopted at COP15 in Kunming. But in the uncertain situation as we are, these big meetings, they can only be held if once we are safely through the crisis. So there's no time to lose. We really need to get to work. So I think with this, I gave you a very quick, brief overview on why we think this is EU Biodiversity Strategy for 2030 is not yet another strategy. It's a very key component. And I stand ready for your question. I would really encourage you to go to and read through this strategy, which is really a dense document in terms of how we can make this change. And another appeal also, go to visit the Leaders Pledge for Nature, making sure that also your heads of state and government may decide to join and endorse the Leaders Pledge for Nature. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to give some little thoughts, and I'm looking forward to the questions. Thank you.
Ms. Karen, thank you for your talk. And now we have Mr. Duško Cirović on board. So he's an associate professor employed at the Faculty of Biology, University of Belgrade. He's one of the leading wildlife biologists in Serbia. His research focused mostly on conservation and management of large carnivores, in particular gray wolf, brown bear, and golden jackal. He's a colleague and old friend of mine, and for future cooperation, hopefully also within this framework. Duško, floor is yours.
Okay, thank you for your kind invitation. I hope so you can see my presentation. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Okay, I will start slideshow. Okay, it's my pleasure to be here at this meeting with you, and excuse me for a wrong notification name. I didn't bring my laptop from home. I took it from my colleague, but for sure my name is Duško Cirović. For other people, I know in person Klemen, and I will start talk about large carnivore, but from the local national scale, and later Klemen will continue on talk about large carnivore, but on a broad scale, on regional and European scale. Serbia, as well as other countries in the region, is home for three large carnivores, for brown bear, Euro-Asian lynx, and gray wolves. But of course, legal status, population status, numbers, density are different for each of these three species. But joint characteristic of our large carnivore species, the fact population, is that our large carnivore population are placed at the age of large European large carnivore population. Maybe the best example for this situation is brown bear population in Serbia. We have a unique situation in Serbia because three large European population are present in the territory of Serbia. Dinaric Pindus population in the west and southwest Serbia, East Balkan population on the east of the Serbia, and Carpathian population on the southeastern part of the Serbia. You can see on these maps that in the fact all three present large European population actually ended at the territory of Serbia, in the fact that our brown bear population is placed at the age of these three large European population. Largest population in Serbia is Dinaric Pindus population. Distribution range is estimated on 8,200 square kilometer. We estimated the population on, this is expert estimation, on 120 individuals, plus minus 10%. For sure, population trend is increase in the terms of number and density, and also in the terms of geographical range. East Balkan population is smallest population in Serbia. Distribution is on 1,400 square kilometer. We have only few individuals present at the border with Bulgaria, and it's really difficult to estimate what is the population trend if you have only few animals present in some particular area. Carpathian population has distribution on 8,200 square kilometer. We estimate that we have between 6 and 10 individuals present in the northeastern Serbia, and the population trend could be estimated as stable. Brown bear is protected species in the Serbia and has status as a strictly protected species, and he is under centralized jurisdiction of Ministry of Environmental Protection. Grey wolf population, it's most abundant population, a large carnivore population in Serbia, and also grey wolf has a wide range of distribution in Serbia. Two European population are present in Serbia. Dinaric Balkan population, which is present on the western, the southern, and eastern part of the Serbia, and we have small and isolated population, Carpathian population inside the region of southeastern part of Vojvodina province. Dinaric Balkan population, it's a large carnivore population. Wolf, Dinaric Balkan wolf population, it's a large carnivore population in Serbia. Distribution range cover 43,500 square kilometer. We estimate the population size in the range between 800 to 900. Population could be estimated as a stable or even slight increasingly, and range also could be estimated as a slight expansion. Carpathian, as I said, is small and isolated population. Distribution range cover only 480 square kilometer. We have also inside this population only few animals in the border region between Romania, because these animals are just moving across the border between Romania and Serbia. There is a present one, maybe two packs with 3 and 7 individuals only occasionally present inside the territory. According to the law on game and hunting, the grey wolf in major parts of its distribution sought from the Sava and Danube rivers is game species. With status protected with the closing season. So it means that Balkan population wolf is under game management, but in North Province Vojvodina, Carpathian population has status of strictly protected. The smallest distribution range and the number of population has Eurasian links in Serbia. We have two European population present in Serbia, Carpathian population on the east of Serbia and Balkan links population on the south of the Serbia. Carpathian population has distribution on 8,000 square kilometer. We estimated this population in the range between 40 and 60 individuals. Population trend could be estimated as a slight increase, but range could be estimated as a stable. For Balkan links population, we have no accurate estimation because of well-known political situation there. According law on protection of nature and the law on game and hunting, links in Serbia is strictly protected species, and here is like bear under centralized jurisdiction of Ministry of Environmental protection. Why we need to keep connectivity with neighboring countries and the rest parts of large European population? This is good example. This is based on our telemetry research of the brown bear population inside the Dinaric Pindus population. You can see that our bears very often appear neighboring Bosnia and Herzegovina on the west, or appear territory of Montenegro on the south. This is a good example why we need to protect the green infrastructure inside the region, in particular forest, because forests are most important habitat for large carnivores. So protection of forested mountains region are crucial for conservation of brown bear, not only in Serbia, but also inside at regional level, and there is a lot of challenge to keep connectivity between our subpopulation inside large European population, so protect large carnivore at regional level. One of most challenging is how to manage negative effect of transportation infrastructure. Why I pointed transportation infrastructure as a trade factor, because Serbia has at this moment very ambitious plan to construct, let's say, dense network of highway, even speed railways that can make a barrier or at least make difficult communication between subpopulation or population inside the same region. So protection of green infrastructure inside the Dinaric region or wider Adriatic Ionian region is new conservation challenge, which requires transborder cooperation in management and conservation at the level of population or regional level. If we want to manage this population, also it means that we need to harmonize our efforts in management and conservation plans in order to keep it or manage this population on, let's say, sustainable way. So thank you for your attention. And if you have any questions, I will be happy to answer, but later. Now I have enough time to introduce my colleague Klemen Jerima. He's the next speaker. As I said, he will speak about large carnivore, but from wide point of view. Klemen Jerima is professor of wildlife ecology and management, employed at Department of Forestry at Biotechnical Faculty, University of Ljubljana in Slovenia, of course. Professor Jerina is one of a leading brown bear expert in Europe. His research focusing mainly on conservation, management, and ecology of large carnivores, in particular brown bears. He participated in many national and European projects with topic on large carnivores, and he's author of several dozen scientific papers published in high-ranking international journals. And he will give us a talk entitled, as you can see on your screen. So, Klemen, it's your turn.
Yeah, Duško, thank you for a nice introduction. So. I have to be short because we are running out of time, but just to give you a hint. So my presentation basically will go on the causes and on the distribution of biodiversity in Europe. And then I'd like to emphasize the great importance or the fact that basically the area of EUSAIR of Adriatic and Ionian Sea is a hotspot of the diversity, especially for the large carnivores, because the natural conditions there are still favorable. And then, of course, it's a priority and it makes sense to conserve this. And then I'll have a few words about if the large carnivores are suitable umbrella species also for overall conservation of biodiversity. And then just listed the main threats and then touch the proposal of how to go with, so how to build basically a effective plan to tackle this conservation issue for the region. So Europe is a crowded place by humans. So for example, if you watch it by night, most of the area is colonized by people. In the past, we changed the habitats, we overhunted the species. So it's amazing that still we have the large carnivores in the area, which are, for example, more demanding toward the space. But okay, in order to survive, they had to adapt, and they do. And they still find some place, but there is no real wilderness in this area. And taking into account, or for example, if you check the biodiversity in the entire Europe, it's not distributed evenly, but we have some areas where you have hotspots. And for example, as far as large carnivore species and also some other, the Adriatic and Ionian region is definitely its hotspot. It has favorable natural conditions. So basically, I have several mountains touching there. And even the people are So they're used to the presence of large carnivores. They traditionally did tolerate them, though the changes are huge. But by the same time, all these landscapes, or at least some of them, they're expected to change quite fast, and we have to be prepared. So not to do this against the nature. And also, so this area, for example, which hosts all three large predators, is like a connective part for larger area where the populations meet. So it's really a hot spot also for the preservation. So biodiversity, or especially the large predators, one of the main causes for their disappearance in the past that was actually operating directly or indirectly is functional fragmentation of the habitat, degradation, which is still going on, not in all areas. So here the policies and also the frequency of people or how they use the landscape change, but still overall it's still it's an existing threat. And it can happen or operate through several factors. One is direct change of landscape, for example, change of the forest into the agriculture or urban areas. Of course, we need them, urban areas and agriculture, in order to survive, but at least, so we have to be aware that not all the habitats are equally important. And especially so, for example, by really smart spatial planning, you can prevent for example, fragmentation and so fragmentation of the habitats into the smaller parts, and that means also the fragmentation of the population. And of course, doing that into other advance is much cheaper than correct after you've done already mistakes. So this should be taken into account in all the future planning. Then it's each of the countries had to build or builded the infrastructure, including highways, and then, for example, for the last years, the energetic is really supported, including with wind turbines, and those could also, they can have strong effects on suitability of the habitats also in terms of fragmentation. And there is a lot of knowledge how to tackle it, but it's still not covering the entire areas, and yeah, it's not taking into the force everywhere. Then in some areas, one of the important causes for the decline of the population is also non-harmonized management within the countries or even management units. So it's not the fact that management should be equal along the areas of the population, but it should have a similar, or it should follow the same goal on the population level. And basically for the last year, a lot of initiatives is going in this direction. Then Europe has no wilderness, and large predators, they all move in the huge areas, so they come regularly into the contact with people. And this is often results in conflicts with people, which is basically, to be honest, the major threat we have for the existence in large predators in this landscape. A lot has been done to resolve them, but of course, also these measures are limited because financially and also willingness to cooperate with people is limited. But a lot of efforts has been done on this, and it will go on. And then in some areas, the conflict between people and large predators basically change into the conflict between different groups of people, hierarchical and local. And this is becoming one of the main issues in, for example, in Slovenia. To resolve it, you need a proper communication, of course, but also the respect from everybody to the people who think differently. And for example, as coming from academia, I see sometimes that even policies from European Union, for example, especially on the protection of the species, sometimes they tend to be a bit too rigid, because the final goal with protection is to have vital population, not to protect them per se. That's sometimes forgotten. And I think it will be really, really important, for example, when we go into this Ionian or Mediterranean region, because the cultural differences are huge. And if you don't respect the local cultures, then it might end up in just the conflicts between people in different structures, and which is a big problem. So how to go on from here? So basically, for example, on European scale, or even on the area which is covered by Adrian region, there has been really a lot of local, national, and population level projects that were targeting the conservation of the large carnivore, including preservation of habitat fragmentation. And basically, before we'll start with anything, I think it's important to take the best practices, to take the lessons learned from this practice, not to ignore everything, to start from the scratch, but really to build on good practices and existing capacities. So that's really crucial. Otherwise, basically, if you exclude somebody else, he'll not cooperate, of course. And then, of course, the legislation and also the measurement that should be implemented, they should consider the local conditions and the history and the culture. So basically, the implementation should be respectful. So whatever project will go into that, usually all the projects start on capacity buildings, and you have a lot of capacities there, but it's scattered or it is fragmented. So, okay, on the scientific level, there is a lot of connections, but it's not the same when you go to the political level. So first you start with that to collect the people and see their interest. And then probably one of the major measurement or task or activities will be really good communication, vertical and horizontal. So we should recognize which are the most important target groups: general public, national management authorities, local authorities, so on, NGOs. Evaluate their importance and give them proper word, and then also develop communication through many, many channels. Then it's important also to develop proper governance, and likely some legislation will have to be changed so the governments can go at the national level through making the management plans based on guidelines on international level. And then you need also regional collaboration and again, some adaptation of legislation, important up to bottom changes and bottom up changes. For example, there is a hot topic on changes of Annex 4 to Annex 5 for example, for brown bears for this area open for a while, not resolved. Then in order to preserve, so I started that conflicts are one of the main threats to conservation of the predators and also other aspects of biodiversity in this area, and to tackle it efficiently. It's efficient to show that basically proactive protection, it works. And it does work because the tradition of doing it has been lost somewhere, but you have really a lot of good cases around now in Europe and different parts of the world, and should make it happen. And then when it comes to connectivity and habitat conservation, it's important to identify connectivity hotspots. So there is a lot of knowledge, data available, but it should be just harmonized and basically collaborated for the entire area. And it's important to raise the awareness about the issue. So, for example, at least my experience is that the people the people who are planning the infrastructure, usually they would like to take into the consideration large predators, but they lack the knowledge and lack the data. So basically you should put that together. And the intersectoral cooperation is also important. So for example, some sectors, they're working against the other. That should be discussed and harmonized on all issues. Population monitoring, so should try to improve and harmonize the data. There's a lot of data available, but not equal quality. So basically how to do this is to go into the joint data sharing platforms and to further enhance the collaboration of the networking among the expert, though this is not the bottleneck in this area. And then of course we need a trust and partnership between public bodies, countries, within the countries and between the countries to be successful, and should think about that in advance. So thank you for listening. And now I think we should go a bit late, but we should go to the questions to the audience. So whatever question will come, we'll try to forward it to the most suitable panelist or representative of the countries. Thank you.
May I ask, just continue with your presentation. Large carnivores are charismatic species and pay attention of public, a lot of attention. And my question is how we can harmonize our action in conservation and management, and in particular, how we can organize joint monitoring of large carnivores. We have excellent cooperation in science. We have a lot of joint projects. That is not problem. I cannot see problem there. But how we can do it in the same way in conservation and management between countries?
Oh, probably I can try to answer this question from my part or my point of view. So basically, a lot has been done even on, for example, conservation of the management in the latest year. For example, for brown bear in Europe, you have the initiatives, and for example, within the Biodiversity project, we have been building the guidelines for harmonized management of the brown bears in the Croatia, Slovenia, Austria, and part of Italy, which is connected to this Dinara population, and also included Bosnia inside. And of course, here is the next logical step, what would be to cover the entire population, and basically, but we need a political frame that would enable this, and of course, also the organizational frame. But the knowledge is here, so I think that's not the real issue. Where we're really, I think, lacking the success is the implementation, but not for the management, but for example, if we go to green infrastructure or planning of the use of the landscape. So here I see there is a huge room for the improvement. So a lot has been done on the proposal, but when it comes to the practice, the wheels are moving really slowly sometimes. And I don't see it, but that's probably national specific. So that's why we need a lot of communication and also local adaptation. If you go in such project, for example, in Slovenia, it's not the issue that people would not like to cooperate. For example, the countries or the companies that would like ignore the predators or ignore the nature. So it's huge willingness to cooperate, but it was a lack of knowledge in certain periods. So, and here I think you can do a lot with small investment in the knowledge and distributing it. Then I have one question for Ms. Karin Zamberger, because, okay, I work as a professor at biotechnical faculty, so, okay, we come in touch with the European policy, of course, but often indirectly. And for example, my impression in some situation is that the legislation and also the measurements, they're kind of rigid, and people perceive them like given from the top down. And that's simply, so to use the proper word, sometimes it's not really efficient. And yeah, do you think this could be improved, or and how? For example, especially when you come to the discussion about the hunting, the effects of the hunting, importance of the hunting, or even on other topics.
But thank you for giving me the opportunity to react to that. In fact, we are really in a dilemma, because on the one hand side, we have seen that voluntary measures do not deliver either. Voluntary measures are not taken seriously, and hence there's even now in the strategy the preparation of a legal instrument for ecosystem restoration. So it's kind of really going also in the other direction, making it more stronger legal instruments so that you can hold the countries liable. On the other hand, I do agree with you that the rigidness of a law, it takes a lot of time to make it and then to change it. And if you look at the nature directives of the European Union, they stem from another epoch even. They stem the birds directives from the 70s, the flora fauna habitat directive from the 19th. How long it took until you could really see now the impact on the ground. So I think the answer is we'll have to have a smart mix of things. What we want, I think we all want the same. We want really acceleration of implementation. We have seen how urgent these risks and these impacts, be it climate change, be it biodiversity loss, be it health, it's impacting on everybody now. And yet we are captured in our traditional ways. So I think there will be no one size fits all. I think we'll need legislative instruments for the sake of really moving forward as a whole. And then in terms of the rigidness, I mean, I think you mentioned in your presentation a keyword, the communication and the mutual respect. You have to bring all the candidates at the table, and then very often you can find solutions to move forward and use the instruments, be it legal or voluntary, to the best implementation. I really think there is no clean answer to that, because you can, depending from which angle you look at it, it's either voluntary, it's not delivering at all because it's ignored, and on the other hand, the legal one is then perceived as being too reglementary. I think we have to be very conscious and very open about the planetary emergency we are facing. And when we think about the issues you have been mentioning, how we can protect the large predators, I mean, if we look from the other angle, I mean, by protecting the large predators, we protect the nature we need, that it continues to provide all these multiple ecosystem services in addition to maintaining the large predators. Many people who may not think about bears, lynx, and wolves, but they are very aware about climate change. And we need these areas, these habitats of bear, wolf, and lynx. They will, in addition, continue and help that these crucial ecosystem services are maintained. Again, very often, I think people do not make the links. And I think by connecting the dots, we can really help to move the majority behind, because at the end, the stakes really could not be higher. Because if we do not manage to protect and restore nature, we will have no chance to tackle or stabilize climate change. If we do not stabilize climate change, I mean, we are moving towards a situation which is actually beyond our imagination. I mean, scientists speak about, you've probably heard about it, the hothouse Earth, that if we get into a kind of cascading tipping points, I mean, these are really situations we don't even want to imagine them. And yet, from what scientists say in the IPCC and IPBES reports, because of the continued destruction worldwide of nature, we have really moved ourselves close to these cascading tipping points. And now coming back to what does this mean for the protection of large carnivores? I think if we see that if we manage to coexist, if human beings, if we manage a coexistence with the large carnivores, we have made a real big step in the right direction. But I circled a bit round of your question, because from your specific question, how can we make legal instruments more open? I don't think we can. I mean, by definition, they are meant to be strict. And actually, that's why also people demand them. But I think we have to make sure that there is an acceptance and also comprehensiveness and understanding of everyone why these legal instruments are there. That's not against people, but that people really see that's actually in favor. That's really to make sure that we manage to protect and restore nature, and we manage the transformative change. I think we probably need a very mixed bag of legal instruments, of financial instruments, of voluntary instruments. I think we need both. We need the bottom up, many of those we've just described, and we also need the top down. And if this truly converges, I think then we manage the transformative change. Fingers crossed. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I thought that we'll have some questions from the audience, but it doesn't, at least I don't see them.
If I may?
Yeah, sure.
I would very much agree with Karin, what she said, of course, but to be a little bit also more, let's say, concrete, really take it seriously. We have to do on all levels, top down and bottom up, to enhance this, let's say, eco-connectivity for, let's say, large carnivals and the other, let's say, animals and plants, and let's say to enhance biodiversity or ecosystem services on the end. It's quite a lot of still room, I would say, on the both level, top on the European Commission among the, let's say, DGs to work better and more coherent for this issue, and of course on national and transboundary level as a top bottom up to find the solution for those issues. This is about, I would say, very much about the culture and political will to appropriate address this issue. This is where it's very difficult to say to prepare the recipe for each country or for each animal or whatever habitat, but it's really hard work on both levels, top and bottom up, to address this issue. It's a very interesting mix, but it's possible. It's moving, I believe, in right direction. But you have to invest, not so much money, if any. You have to invest in your energy to convince the partners with a very, very, I would say, clear idea and proposal for the implementation on the very concrete ground. And this is a very concrete area. Not to speak about, just generally, and so on and so on. There are many ways on both levels, once again, bottom and top. And this is something what we should be aware. And it's possible, but no anymore with business as usual. No go. It's, you have to leave your zone of comfort. What I learned, and this is some hope to really move forward. Zone of comfort of the bureaucrat approach on the governments or EU institutions. Thank you.
Thank you for your insert, Mitya. So I think we run out of time. So it was nice talking to you, and I think we just open more questions than close, and look forward from the evolution of today's event. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Be well.